Hey, it's Chuck Armstrong with Loudwire Nights, and this is Loudwire Nights on Demand. I had a blast chatting with Emma Anzai of Sick Puppies as we looked back on their career, but also looked ahead to their new album, Wave the Bull, out next year. This first aired on Tuesday, October 8th. Let's go. It's crazy to think, but we are already getting ready for new music coming in 2025. And tonight, I am so happy to be getting ready for some of that new music with Emma Anzai, bassist and founding member of Sick Puppies, whose next album, Wave the Bull, is out in March of next year. Emma, thank you so much for hanging tonight.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So the last full length from Sick Puppies was Fury, which came out in 2016. How does it feel to be talking about a new album right now?
It feels long overdue. I think everyone feels that way. It's been a few things have sort of like gotten in the way and happened, and I'm sure that's the same for a lot of bands, especially during the pandemic. Fury was a long time ago, but I think that everyone agrees, at least in the band, that it was the right time. It was just, how sometimes feels like the right time. And back then it wasn't, but now it is. So yeah, it feels good.
Right on. Well, the two songs you've given us this year ahead of Wave the Bull, There Goes the Neighborhood and the latest, Going Places. Do you think these are good indications of what fans can expect from the full record?
I think that it's kind of interesting because yes and no. The heaviness, definitely. We've gone pretty heavy on a few songs. I think Going Places is pretty unique in the way that it's kind of one of a kind on the album. There aren't any other songs, I don't think, that are kind of like that. And we sort of led with that one as the main one because we just wanted to do something different, and we approached it differently. So, we just wanted to sort of say this is sort of the fresh album, the fresh band, and yeah, kind of had fun with it.
Does it feel like, you've been doing this for a while and this isn't the first Sick Puppies album or anything like that. But does it feel sort of like a new start or like a fresh start? It's been so long since Fury, the pandemic happened, like you just list all these different things that have happened in the last 8-9 years. Does it feel in some ways like a fresh start almost as a band?
I think so, yeah. And I think because of that, like we did not, I don't think anyone, obviously no one predicted a pandemic, and we didn't foresee it taking so long and things sort of happening, schedules and that kind of stuff in life, and we didn't sort of foresee that happening. But I think and for a while there, especially during the pandemic, everything was up in the air. We were like, well, we've never experienced something like this before. We don't know what this means for live music bands in general. And I think, and also a lot of bands didn't survive it. So we were kind of worried too. We were like, wow, I don't know what we're going to do. So we knew we had the music and we wanted to release it at some point, but it just seemed so far away. So yeah, absolutely. Like now being able to finally be here and do it the way we wanted to, it does feel like a new start. Yeah, it feels good just because it's been so long.
So how old or new are some of these songs? Are some of these songs that you've been working on since Fury, like 8 years ago, or are they all relatively recent?
I wouldn't say 8 years. Probably a few years from here. There was some that were a couple of years before the pandemic. There was one song, the first song we released, There Goes the Neighborhood, we played live a couple of times. That was one of the ones we had back then. So yeah, I just sort of felt right to sort of lead with that one coming out of it. But yeah, it's sort of, the album's sort of like a split between three sections. And it's sort of, and we did it that way because we realized when we wrote everything, a lot of the songs were very different to each other. There was like a heavy element, and then there was like a really soft element, much like a lot of other bands. But we just said to ourselves, well, we could probably do this because we've done this in the past. So we sort of, kind of like grouped it. But yeah, there are different like styles almost on the album. Right on. Yeah.
Which I dig, man. And yeah, listen, I think in today's day and age, I think fans and listeners are all about, that. Like they just want to connect with good music, right? That's all we want. And so whether it's soft or heavy or this style or that style, like if it's authentic, if it's real, if we're connecting with it, that's what matters.
Yeah, I think you're right. Absolutely.
Does can you unpack the album title a little bit? Because I've read a little bit about it from the PRs and stuff like that. But it's an interesting album title to me, and I think the concept is interesting, but I'd love to hear that from you. So the album title is Wave the Bull.
Wave the ball.
Can you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah. I think we sort of came across it because um, it's not really take the bull by the horns. It's not really that, but it's sort of, we had conversations about that. But the word bull and like how that, pertains to life. And we sort of came across wave the bull as in like, it's kind of like bringing on adversity and without fear, because usually you're sort of like, you got the fear of uncertainty, you've got a lot of fear, and you don't want bad things to happen, or you don't want to go through that stuff. No one does. And so I guess it's like a way to reconcile that everyone has to go through some hard shit, and life will absolutely do that to you. No one's immune to that. So it's kind of like the way to approach it is to wave the ball, I guess, and be like, all right, bring it on, because it's going to happen anyway. So let's just try and do it fearlessly, which is really hard asked because fear is always present. But yeah, that's kind of like how we came across it.
Right on. I dig that. Well, you're no stranger to adversity or confronting difficulty. I mean, if you just skim the surface of the history of Sick Puppies, right? I mean, you first formed in 97, released your debut in 01. And here we are today, all these years later. You're the only original member in the band. And yet here we are today, all those years later. And so, somehow the band has continued to forge ahead. You've maintained a focus or a commitment to the band, even through ups and downs. And, again, like that's just a surface level skimming of this. You could talk about the pandemic. You could talk about the changes in the industry. You could talk about all these different things. You have a life. You could talk about personal things in your life. How have you maintained that focus? How have you sort of stayed committed to Sick Puppies when you've probably had some opportunities to say, you know what, maybe I'll do something else, or maybe we'll try something different?
Sure. Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I think that anything that lasts, because I mean, yeah, 2001, it's been a long time. And I think anything, whether it's a relationship or if it's a job or a band or whatever it is that lasts for that long, you will go through some ups and downs and some serious trying times where you think, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And yeah, absolutely. There's been that too, of course. And, there's like member changes, there's like pandemics, there's, life stuff, like you said. And, being in a band anyways is kind of like it's difficult. It's difficult. Like it's great. It's the best thing in the world, and I wouldn't change it for anything. But sometimes there are difficult elements to it. You got to, work with a lot of people, and then you've got like this audience too, like that you sort of converse with and exchange energy with, and what they think matters too. But then also what what it brings to you also matters as well. So there's a lot of elements, and I think I guess it just comes down to like how much like I love it. And, in a way, because it's been so long, it's like so much of an investment that you want to find ways to preserve it and to make it work, like anything. So I guess it's just that. Yeah, it's just like trials and tribulations and just the love of it. That's, I guess, what it comes down to.
Right on. I appreciate that. No, that makes total sense. And yeah, it is. I mean, like you said, being committed to something for that long, there's an investment. But yeah, you think about relationships, you think about family, you think about friends, like 20 years of something like that. I mean, that's a very legitimate investment for sure.
Yeah.
What do you find yourself looking back a lot? Like, is that something you enjoy doing?
Oh, that is a good question. Yeah, I find myself, I'm very nostalgic. I get hit with nostalgia a lot. And you know how you always look back, how they always say, like in psychology, and you hear that, you look back and you only really remember the good parts. Like your brain somehow shuts out any bad parts. And that's really true. There's a lot of stuff that happens and you forget how bad it felt. And I look back, I only look back fondly. Like there's some stuff that I'm like, well, yeah, that kind of was bad, but I don't think I remember it like I did back then. But yeah, I do remember the good parts, and it's nice. Yeah, it's a little daunting sometimes. You're like, wow, it's been so long. It feels like it's been like, like it was yesterday. You know how they say that? That's true too.
Yeah.
But yes, I do enjoy. Yeah, enjoy the journey.
Well, let's look ahead. I mean, so listen, when Wave the Bull comes out, it will be nearly a decade since Fury came out. We're celebrating that release out in March next year. What else are you thinking about as you look ahead for Sick Puppies?
Just releasing the album. That's something that's like a big feat that we're all sort of really proud of, and wasn't sure if it was going to happen, and never thought that it would maybe come into fruition at times. So the fact that it's actually happening feels really good, and it feels good to get feedback from fans and people who have liked the band before or new fans, and to hear what they think. Some may like it, some may not, and that's okay, because that's just the nature of this and what we do. And I'm looking forward to just being able to release it, being able to play shows, and just feel that and really sort of like soak it in. A lot of times, like, you do stuff in life and you're like, you're anxious and you want to quickly go through it and go to the next thing and the next thing, and you miss the moment, So I'm looking forward to just soaking it in and appreciating it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I know everybody always, whenever a new album comes out, I know the question is like, well, are you thinking about the next album? But no,
right,
like,
yeah.
You wanna enjoy, you wanna embrace the moment of that album for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Though I have to imagine, with it being so long since you've released an album, you're probably a little antsy too, just about, no, we're here and we're not going anywhere.
True. Yeah. And I'm sure, like, everyone's like, wow, you had all that time. Like, I mean, have you got another one in the works? I'm sure that's, I can understand how that would be an expectation too, but yeah.
Well, I'll just leave that out there. I won't ask that. But Emma Anzai, thank you so much for hanging tonight. The latest song from Sick Puppies, it is called "Going Places." It's awesome. It's super catchy. It's great, man. It kind of takes me back to some of the earlier stuff that I first got me hooked to Sick Puppies. So it's really fun to hear you guys doing this, doing it again, man. It's out now. The new album is Wave the Bull. It will be here in March of next year. Listeners, you can stay caught up with everything going on in Sick Puppies world at sickpuppies.com. And Emma, we got to have you back on the show. There's a lot to celebrate, and you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you so much. I would love to. I appreciate it.
That wraps up this episode of Loudwire Nights on Demand. Stay caught up with everything happening in the world of rock and metal on the Loudwire app and at loudwire.com.